coaching and or consulting business, right? Two common reasons. Like I said, these are not the only reasons, but these are two common reasons that I have found as to why people are not consistent in their businesses. Okay. So the first reason, oh, I'm sticking a little bit. The first reason is not having a clear cut plan, right? That first reason is not having a clear cut plan, meaning that your vision is foggy, right? You know how you talk to some people, and like I said, I'm gearing this towards coaches and consultants. I'm pretty sure you guys know, or you've run into individuals that say that they want their help, to do the application, maybe they pay you the money, whatever. And when it comes down to it, they're like all over the place, right? And they don't have a clearly defined set of goals. Now, yes, we can have, different goals, right? Maybe all under the same umbrella. But, some people are like all over the map, right? Or they just don't have a clear idea or a clear vision of what it is that they actually want to achieve. So that is one of the most common reasons people are not able to be consistent. Because how can you keep yourself motivated if you don't even have a clear vision in mind? Like how they say, the light at the end of the tunnel. If the light at the end of the tunnel, is foggy or not there, right? Then it's going to be even more difficult to stay on track, right? To actually stay motivated, right? And that's the key. If you don't stay motivated, how can you be consistent? How can you be consistent with something if you're not motivated to do it? And then how can you be motivated if you don't have a clear vision of what it is you're trying to achieve? Okay. So again, I'm not saying that this is the one and only reason why people are not able to maintain consistency. I'm just saying, with my experience, this is one of the reasons that I come across time and time again. Lack or time and time again as to why people are falling off in terms of being consistent in their business is the lack of a vision. Okay. So again, when you are doing your planning, because I know all coaches advise, right? Business coaches, let me say that. Most business coaches, from what I know, advise doing like a yearly plan or a quarterly plan, a yearly plan breaking down into quarters. So if you don't have a clear cut vision of what you want to achieve. So let's shift. I'm shifting slightly. I shifted before I told y'all I was shifting. So initially I was talking about what that long-term goal is. Like, what if someone were to ask you, if you were to ask one of your coaching clients and you were to say, what type of business do you want? Like, who is your ideal client? Who do you feel like you're going to serve, right? And how you're going to serve them. Like, if they don't have a clear vision of what a successful business looks like to them, right? If they don't have a clear vision of what their business as a success looks like for them, then it's going to be hard for them to be able to be consistent or to be motivated to be consistent, right? Because the umbrella vision itself is very, very murky, like, right? It's not clear cut. Now, let me shift, bringing it into more of a practical, day-to-day, week-to-week issue of not being consistent. Let's say you know what your long-term vision is, right? You already know what that is. You're very clear on that. However, some other goals that you have under that umbrella, like I said, you know what the long-term goal is. But if you are not clear as to what those other goals are, that's going to help you to get there, right? Or those other steps that are going to help you to get there, right? Like maybe, you want to have a successful coaching business. And so that's the umbrella, that's that long term, right? But some of the other goals that are going to go under that umbrella, like, for example, in order to have a successful business, you're going to have clients, right? You're going to have a consistent following and people that desire your products or services, right? So if one of your avenues to growing your audience is a show, let's just say, right? Just threw that out there, doing a weekly show. And if you don't have that clear cut plan or vision of the different things that you are going to do, right, to grow your audience, right, then it's going to be harder for you to actually be consistent. It's going to be really hard for you to be consistent if you don't have a clear idea of the steps that you are taking, right, to get to that long-term goal, which is having a successful coaching and or consulting business. So like I said, under that umbrella, maybe one of your goals could be you want to grow your audience by doing a live show a couple of times a week. You want to grow your audience by putting together a group program, or you want to grow your audience by doing a particular webinar, let's just say, right? Those are all under that umbrella. Now I lost my connection on Instagram. Okay, this maybe, I guess it's back. Sorry about that, y'all. I don't know. My internet has not changed. I don't know why now all of a sudden, it's so many tech problems. So yeah, so the umbrella is to have a successful business, and those different ways that I mentioned, like having a group coaching program, doing a live show, right? Doing a webinar. All of those are different avenues or different steps underneath that main umbrella, which is to have a successful business. You are going to have a grow a successful business by doing X, Y, and Z. And if you don't have a clear vision of what it is you're going to be doing, right? Let's say for the first quarter of 2020, if you don't have a clear vision of the different things that you want to do within that quarter to grow your business, then how are you going to be consistent? How are you going to be motivated? How are you going to stay motivated? If you don't stay motivated, you're not going to be consistent, right? So you see where I'm going with that? The idea behind it is being consistent. Being consistent with something over a long period of time is challenging. It's challenging for most people, right? Now, the key is to figure out, I mean, and there's a few different things that I go through, but for the purpose of tonight's discussion, I want to emphasize the importance of having a clear vision in your mind, right? Where you can speak it, you can write it, clear vision. You can see it, right? You see it in your mind, you can write it out clearly, and you can verbalize it clearly. Write it out and verbalize it. See it in your mind very clear, whatever that vision is for you, right? That is one of the biggest challenges. If your vision is not clear cut, if the vision itself, the long-term goal is not clear cut, and if the different steps that you are taking to get to that long-term goal, and it's going to be different, it's going to change, it's going to shift as you grow, as you learn, right? It's going to shift, but as you go along, you should still have an idea. And I just mentioned quarterly because, for me, like the way my brain works, that makes it easier. Think about quarterly. This quarter, I'm working on, like I said, growing my audience. And I'm going to do that by being a guest on other people's podcasts, as well as being a guest on different people's radio shows, right? That is a more specific step-by-step as to how I'm going to increase my audience, which is going to lead me to having a successful coaching business, right? So I have to be very clear on what those steps are. And the clearer you are, the more motivated you will be, which will cause you to be more consistent, right? You won't lose your motivation and you'll be consistent, okay? So that's one of the things I wanted to mention. And the second one, because I said 2 common reasons, the second one I wanted to mention is having a whole bunch of irons in the fire, okay? And I think oftentimes we as women, we do that a lot because of the fact that just being a woman in general, oftentimes we are balancing a full-time job. It almost sounds like I hear something going in the background, like a vacuum cleaner or something. I'm like, ain't nobody running no vacuum cleaner in my house. Better not be. You know, as women, we we juggle a lot. Like I said, full time, you know, working full time, running our businesses. We may have children, whether it be small children, whether they're in high school or even early adulthood, right? All can be very demanding, just, you know, depending on the child and depending on their age, of course, and their needs, as well as being married, or just having a spouse, having a partner in general, right? That's a huge responsibility. And a lot of times we have different responsibilities in the community that we participate in. Let's just say maybe church. And again, I'm just kind of throwing that out there because I know that that's common. But any other activities outside of the home that you're managing, or outside of, you know, your business or your full-time job, it takes skill to juggle all of that at one time. So we typically become very good at juggling. Now, however, it comes to a point where when you talk about a coaching or consulting business, or just a business in general, if you were trying to focus on too many things at once, what happens? You may be okay with juggling, you know, juggling things, right? Like I said, a lot of us have developed that skill. However, at what cost? At what cost, and how long are you going to continue to juggle like that? Because that can wear you down mentally and physically and spiritually, right? Eventually that will wear you down. Now, in the context of a business, what I mean is having too many irons in the fire. For example, let's just say in your business, you, again, that long-term goal is the same. You want a successful coaching and or consulting business. And under that umbrella, you have all of these different irons. You know, I'm using the analogy of irons in the fire. You have, I don't know, maybe a weekly show that you're doing. You have, you're getting on different podcasts and different radio shows. Maybe you are in the process of writing an article or part of a book project, so you're writing a book. Maybe you are also putting together a group program, a group coaching program. I was trying to think of something else to throw in there. Maybe you're trying to put together a webinar. Okay, should say. And those are all wonderful tasks that will all help you to get to that end goal. However, the bottom line is it's only 24 hours in a day, right? And some of that time you got to sleep, you got to eat, you got to, you know, handle other responsibilities. So it's about being realistic in terms of how many irons you have in the fire, or how many things you're juggling at one time. So how this pertains to consistency is, it is impossible to be consistent when you have so many different irons in the fire. You have so many different balls that you're juggling. You are bound to drop one. You are bound to, you know, let this one kind of go by the wayside for a minute while you over here picking these up. And then, you know, these over here are left unattended. And when you come over here and you pick these up over here, you juggling those, and these over here left unattended, right? So when I say unattended, meaning you're not being consistent with it. And if you're not being consistent, then you're not going to produce the type of results that you want to produce, right? So that is one of the common reasons, because like I said I was going to get into two tonight. So that's the second one of why people have a tendency not to be consistent. It's because you're doing too many things at one time, right? Yes, everything is important. All of those things that I listed are very, you know, excellent things in order to grow your business, in order to, you know, grow your audience, to increase your sales and things of that nature, right? However, you have to be realistic in terms of how much time, speaking of time, I'm looking at the time, how much time you have to devote to those, you know, particular projects. You have to be realistic, because if you have too many, you're not going to be able to be consistent, because you're going to be pulled in a lot of different directions, right? And you're not going to be able to give the task the time that they each need in order to, for you to be consistent and to stay motivated, right? And to be consistent enough where it can actually yield the type of results that you want. So that's another reason. So just think about that. If you find yourself not being consistent, you start up, you fall off, start up, you fall off, take a look at how much you are actually putting on your plate. And that's another good reason for actually mapping it out, is because you can actually see on paper, like I'm a big pen to paper person. You can actually see on paper what it is, what your tasks are under that big umbrella for that first quarter. And sometimes you can look at it and be like, wow, this is a lot. Or you may not really know that it's a lot. You may think it's feasible, but as you start doing it, you start to see that you're dropping the ball. You start to see that you can't give everything the appropriate amount of attention that it needs. Maybe if you plan, I don't know, 4 things for the first quarter, you get in there and you realize it's too much, drop down to 3, right? Just tweak it until it gets to a point where it's manageable, where you feel like you're making headway and you're actually achieving some positive results from some of those things that you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and close it off with that. So those are the 2 most common reasons that I have found in my experiences of why people are not consistent, why they're not consistently following through in their business, in their coaching and or consulting business. And I listed the first one as, well, the very last one I just mentioned was having too many irons in the fire, right? You're just doing too much. As my son would say, you're doing too much, right? So cut down on some of those irons you have in the fire. Stop juggling so many balls. And the first one I mentioned was have a clear-cut vision. You know, have really be able to see it, be able to see it, be able to speak it, be able to write it, be crystal clear about what that long-term vision is, as well as be clear about what different steps under that umbrella of your long-term vision that you are working on per quarter, let's just say, right? Be very clear of the different steps, different small steps, all leading to one place, right? A successful business, but be clear on those identified small steps that you are taking. And those 2 things will help you tremendously in being consistent in your coaching and or consulting business. So again, my name is Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison. I am a confidence and success coach for African American women that have coaching and or consulting businesses. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do Evening Motivation with Jackie. So join me if you can. If not, catch the replay, but definitely make sure you share this out and tag another coach and or consultant. All right, y'all. So have a great, great evening. And I will talk to you all soon. Also, too, if you ever have any questions or comments, whatever, just leave them for me in the comments, okay? I will definitely get back to you. All right. Have a good night. Bye, Instagram. Good night. All right, Facebook, you up next. All right, Facebook. Good night, everyone. Good night, everyone.